Hello again, everyone. I'm Larry Hamilton. Welcome to my YouTube painting channel. Thank you for watching. This is a live broadcast to you coming today, and I wanted to thank you for joining and tell you what we're going to paint today. We're going to work on an oil painting. You may have seen the image there at the beginning here while I was getting ready, waiting for 1 o'clock. And it's a scene from England, from the United Kingdom, in an area called Swanwick, UK. It's a nice little country scene of a sort of a farmhouse out in the middle of a field, so not real complicated, but we're going to spend some time on it, make sure we can do a good job. And it comes to me from a photograph. I am a member of a Facebook group called Photos for Artists, and so if you're an artist, you can get free photos to paint, no royalty fees, no copyright infringement. Just go to the Facebook page and look up Photos for Artists, and you'll find this enormous wealth of photographs out there that you can pick and choose from and paint to your heart's content. So I think it's a nice service that someone from, I think they're actually based in the UK, are actually making available to artists of all kinds to paint these photos. And the photographers love it too. They get some notoriety, so I want to make sure I give credit to the photographer here. Her name is Diane Hewitt, and I'll be putting this painting on their website when I finish it and get a good photograph of it. So, but first I want to go back to my computer, and I want to talk to you a minute about how I took this original photo. And as I usually do, sometimes I modify them, sometimes I crop them, and so I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and talk about the paints and brushes. So hang on. Okay, we're back here at the computer, and I want to welcome you once again. Shouldn't have to do that, but I'm glad you're all here. So let me show you where I started with this photograph. The original photo here is coming up. Excuse me. And it basically is a pretty panoramic scene, actually, of a farm field, and it has some buildings on the right, and it has this white, looks like a farmhouse, sitting right in the middle of the painting and of the photograph. And so I always like to try to get that off center if I can. So basically I cropped it to this, and I also cropped it to fit a 11 by 14 canvas. So I changed the aspect ratio, and it's pretty easy to change the aspect ratio if you don't mind cropping your paintings, cropping your photos. If you have questions about aspect ratio, just ask me and I will answer them while I'm painting, but I don't want to spend time doing it right now. But so this is a cropped photo, and we have then my grid. Here's my 4x5 grid that fits nicely on an 11 by 14 inch canvas. So if you've seen the sketch, you've been able to see it. I didn't have the grid over the sketch, but you can always lay a grid out like this, and you will get the sketch on my website after I get the video edited and uploaded to YouTube. And then I want to tell you, I also do my value map. Somebody asked me the other day what a value map was, and I forgot that I didn't tell people what it is. For those of you who may be new and don't know what a value map is, I basically take a scene that I want to paint if I have a good photograph, and I try to get it into like 3 values: a light value, a medium value, and a dark value. Sometimes I get more values than that, but the objective is to take big shapes and make sort of puzzle pieces out of them, simplify the scene pretty dramatically, and then paint these in. I use Photoshop for this, and I paint in these block areas in different values, light, medium, and dark. So I get rid of the color scheme, I get rid of all the detail shapes, and I try to get it into large shapes. That's what I call a value map. So I print that out, and I have it along with the photo that I'm painting from at the top of my easel. So when you see my easel, you'll always see those two photographs at the top. And then also I do a sketch, and this is again taken simplistically kind of from the value map, although this has more detail. And this is what I use to sketch onto my 11 by 14 gray gesso canvas with. So this sketch photograph will be on my website, and when we get ready to upload it, I'll always put this link on my website so you can download it, print it out, and use it for your own painting if you're not going to paint with me today. If you are, I hope you're got your sketch ready and got your canvas ready and your paints. So I want to now dispense with this and go back to my easel and tell you about the paints and my brushes. And this is my standard palette. Again, these are Bob Ross paints. And I have in my plate here, I have a little bit of Bob Ross liquid white. Liquid white is just titanium white with a mixture of, it has a mixture of linseed oil in it, about 50% linseed oil approximately, and 50% titanium white. So it gives a very loose and runny paint. It also dries very slowly. When you put that on, it will extend the drying time of your painting by several days, if not weeks. I also have a little bit of Winsor Newton liquid here, which is a medium that actually speeds up the drying time. So if I want to speed up the drying time, get a little slickness on the canvas, I can use liquid. If I want to slow it down, I can use liquid white. I also get some very nice blending effects with this liquid white. Again, that's a Bob Ross color that I've been using for a while. I don't use a lot of it, but I like to have it for skies and sometimes for water. Okay, my paints, as usual, I'll go around the palette and tell you what they are. This is titanium white, phthalo blue, Prussian blue, midnight black, Van Dyke brown, dark sienna, alizarin crimson, sap green, cadmium yellow, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, bright red. Then I have a Grumbacher color called cadmium orange, and I have a Grumbacher color over here called ultramarine violet. So that's my palette. I don't need all those colors. I may not use all those colors, but I have them available. I have my set of brushes here that you've probably seen before. I have my Treacle filbert brushes here. I have a number 16, a number 10, a number 6, and a number 2. I also have a series of flats. I like to use the flats and the filberts primarily. I don't use round brushes hardly at all, but I have bought a couple new Treacle brushes here, flats. I got a number 16, number 12, number 8, and number 4, and a smaller number 0, I think it is, yes, 0. So I have those brushes at my disposal. Again, I may not use all those, but I may use several of them. I also have my few remaining brushes from the Bob Ross set. I have this large landscape blending brush here, a 1-inch brush. I have a fan brush, number 3 fan brush, and I have a script liner, or a rigger it's called. And I have a couple of palette knives. You saw the big old Bob Ross palette knife there, and I have an assortment of other palette knives as well. So I may not use those either, but I have them available. That's my inventory of what I have to work with. And so I want to get started here. If you have any questions, ask them please. I see we have someone from Laguna Niguel, California, and someone from South Africa. Okay, Louisa Rautenbach from South Africa. Welcome. All right, so I want to get going here with my liquid white as usual. And this has a lot of sky in it. When I talk about the composition here, this particular painting has, oops, I wanted to make sure I get myself zeroed in here. I'm going to try to keep the canvas over to this side so I don't have, wait a minute, I want it on this side, so I take myself out of the picture as much as possible. And I want to put my palette here on this side so I can let you see both, hopefully, as much as possible. Zoom in just a little bit, get my camera set up. This is being recorded on YouTube. It's also being recorded here by me. I have 2 cameras recording the scene, and I also have my overhead camera that's recording the palette. So I can always put together a nice high definition video after this is over with. So when you look at this sketch here, I sketch it with white, charcoal white it's called. It's a pencil by General Pencil Company, and because I have a gray gesso on here, the white charcoal helps if I use just a pure sketch. I also use transfer paper sometimes. In this case, I use transfer paper by Sorel. It's a white transfer paper, and they have various colors: white, black, red, yellow. I'm not sure what other colors they have, but they have a lot of colors. So it's very good for transferring that. So let me get going here and make sure I've got myself as much out of the photograph or the video as I can. And we got sound. Hopefully you can all hear me good. Bonjour, Nicole. She's in Quebec. All right, I'm going to take some liquid white with my 16-inch Treacle filbert brush, and I'm going to start up here on the top, and I'm just going to start laying in some liquid white to give myself a nice background to paint on here, to get some nice clouds and sky. I was talking about this composition. This thing is 2/3 to 3/4 background. That's well, the sky at least is certainly background, and so I'm going to try to make this sky interesting. I don't want it to be one color. If you've heard me talk before, you know I don't like to paint anything more than a 2-inch square with nothing going on. So I will take this background and try to put something in the sky more than 1 or 2 clouds. Try to give it some variation, give it some gradation, and we'll do that. I'll put in some spots in here where I can get some more background, and just paint down around this building here, around the chimney. I'm going to have the sky back in there. So you see there's a lot of sky in this painting. I don't want to overpaint my trees. The reason I use this sketch method is that I don't like to cover the whole painting and then try to remember where everything was. When I start covering it up, I remember watching Bob Ross, and I know that when he painted, he covered his entire canvas, usually with liquid white, and sometimes he used liquid black or something like that, or another color, but he never had a sketch to look at. But I also know that behind the scenes, he did a painting at least 3 to 4 times before he went on TV cameras to paint it. So he had a copy of the painting sitting down below out of camera range, so he could actually look at that painting and copy it while he was painting in his television program. So I don't do that. This is the first time I'm doing this painting. I have not tried to paint it before. So I'd like to at least keep some semblance of a background, or I mean a sketch on my canvas, so I know where things are going to go. All right, let us, I did tell you I'm painting on 11 by 14 canvas, so it's not a huge canvas, but it's nice and nice enough fits the TV screen really well. Hello Barbara, Burlington, Kentucky, welcome. All right, let me get some blue now on this brush and see if I can get a nice soft sky going here. I'm going to pick up some of my Prussian blue. It's a very, very potent color. Take a lot of Prussian blue and it just eat your sky up, eat your white up. I have not, sorry, I left my palette off there. I have not cleaned my brush. I just used the liquid white so far. And so I'm just picking up some Prussian blue here. And we're going to start up here and just start putting in some of the old X-stroke technique that you may have heard about if you've ever heard of Bob Ross or even watched him or listened to any of his videos. He did a lot of painting with this X-stroke. Because I am not cleaning the brush, I'm just using the paint that's in there and adding a little bit of Prussian blue to it. I'm getting this very thinned out white, bluish white color for my sky. This sky has a little bit of pink in it in the clouds. It's got a little bit of gray in the clouds. So I think I can remember enough where to put the clouds in so that I don't have to worry about my sketch not being there. But I'm just trying to get a good covering right now. I'm going to touch in just a little of my violet as I come down into here. Paint up, go start at the bottom and go up. If you do that, you get a gradated color from here, and as you paint up, it gets lighter. So I start at the top with dark and come down and get some light here in the middle. And then I start down at the close to the horizon area. I'm going to put just a touch of alizarin crimson in there. So I've got my violet, alizarin crimson, a little bit of my Prussian blue. So I'm getting sort of a grayish, reddish color here, and I want that to pick up this reddish color down here toward the horizon. I need a little more red in there. Try to go around this house a little bit. Really probably hard for you to see that. I may have to make it a little darker just so it stands out for you. May make it a little darker than I want it just so you can see what I'm doing here. So this is all just underpainting of this house and behind these trees. Can you see? You can see some red in that. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to pick up a little of my violet now, and as I move up, I want the violet to start picking up in here. So that I'm getting a gradated. So it gives the illusion of distance. What we're doing here is making optical illusions. And usually the darker blue at the top is more overhead, and what you see here is further away. So the top is usually darker because it's, if you think of if you're standing inside a sphere that has the sky around you, the darker sky will come forward, and it is overhead. The sky further away toward the horizon is lighter, cooler, usually has some more violet in it and or alizarin, a cool color. Let me put a little more of this alizarin down here. Got some more white in here. I've got, I want this to all come down here. It's got to go in between these trees and this house. Just want to make sure I have my canvas covered back there with this. Taking my time. I'm not in a rush today. I hope you're not in a rush, but I want to try to get as nice a looking sky here, since that's a big part of this painting is the sky. I don't want to ignore it. I want to take my time, get it done, get some nice color in there. See, you can see the gradation. You can see it darker, getting lighter, then it changes colors, gets to a little bit more of the alizarin crimson color. So let me just put a little more dark blue here, maybe on the corner. Okay. So that's a lot of what I want to do with that sky. I'm just trying to keep the blue at the top, Prussian blue up here, and then get it lighter as it comes down, but put some texture, some colors in it, and give it a little bit of movement up there, so it's not all just one constant blue color. All right, now I still haven't washed out this brush. I've had liquid white in it, I've had Prussian blue in it, I've had ultramarine violet in it, I've had alizarin crimson, and that all has worked together to give me this nice blended soft sky. Again, if you have any questions, folks, please put them in the chat window there and I will try to answer. I think most of you know what the value map is. I think I explained that this time. I forgot it last video. All right, now it's time to clean out a little bit out of my brush, get some of the blue out of here. I'm not using thinner yet, I'm just using a paper towel. And I'm going to come back and get some titanium white in my brush. And these filbert brushes are really good for making clouds because they have a nice rounded top on them. And you can make it look like clouds with just the roundedness of the brush itself. We've got some brushes, some clouds up here, come down. I'm going to go back and fine tune those a little more, but I want to get some of that in here. The brush is picking up the blue underneath, which you should not be surprised at. But these curves in the brush itself help. I'm going to put a few more clouds up here that really weren't in the original. I want something else going on in this corner up here. I'm just sort of laying it in, letting them sort of swirl and run together, pick up the blue. So you can see some texture in those clouds. I'm wiping out some of that blue and white that's in my brush. I'm still just using number 16 Treacle filbert. I want to pick up a little bit of my midnight black and get a little bit of a tan color, if you will, or not tan, gray color. And start putting in a few little bumps here that start to look like they're shadows. Okay, a little bit too much, too dark, but I can come back now and put some light on top of that and start blending. Okay, same idea over here. I want some more white, fluffy, puffy clouds. And I want some midnight black in them. Okay. Hello, Carolyn from Ontario, Canada. Welcome. So if you didn't get tuned in right at the beginning and are wondering what we're painting here, this scene is from, it's called Swanwick, United Kingdom. It's a little farmhouse in a, I guess it's a farming community. Actually, I Googled Swanwick and I saw a couple of different Swanwicks, one further north than the other, but both of them are in sort of the Midlands area. One was a little further southwest than the other. They're both in the main part of England. And again, I'll give the photographer her credit. Diane Hewitt is the photographer of this, and she puts these photographs out on a Facebook page called Photos for Artists. So anybody that wants them, you don't have to be an artist, you just have to join the group and abide by their rules. They really don't have any restrictions on copyright or proprietary photographs or any of that stuff. If a photographer puts a photo out on Photos for Artists, they're available for artists, any kind of artist to use. And as much as you want. You can do paintings with them and sell the paintings, and there's no royalty required. Okay, I'm spending a bit of time on these clouds now, trying to get some nice definition because this sky was so full of clouds. I didn't want to leave it just blue. The sky was not full of clouds. I shouldn't have said that. The sky was just full of blue sky primarily. It was there was some nice puffy clouds up there, but they were kind of few and far between. I don't know if I can get a pink color out of this red or not. Usually can get a pink color out of my bright red. I'm going to just put some warmth in here, some very light white pink color. See if I can just add just a little warmth to these clouds here. And I got this red, this alizarin crimson for red, but it is a cool red. I wanted a little bit warmer red. So trying to give you this sort of this summertime look, add a little bit of light red in there, pinkish color. Hope it's coming through. So I have the cool for the shadows of these clouds, and I have the warm for sort of the tops where maybe the sun's hitting a little bit. All right, I think maybe that'll do for all of this. Back and check, make sure I've got enough dark down here, so I want this to stand out. I've got some sky colors in here I want to leave holes for, and maybe a few over here. I'm just covering the canvas in some areas. All right, see, I think I'm gonna clean out my brush now. I've been painting for what, 15 minutes or more and haven't cleaned out my brush. 20 minutes, I guess. All right, so now we have a nice soft sky. Have a few areas that may be just a little too bright, but I can just kind of knock those down just a little bit with a dry brush here. Keep the fluffiness going. All right. So the highlight, if the sun's above, the highlight is coming down on top of those clouds and hitting the clouds. So you want to have some of that in there. Okay. Need to tell me to stop. Somebody needs to say stop. Okay, that's the clouds. All right, let's start to work on some of these trees. I'm going to use a smaller brush now for these trees because as I zoomed in on this, I did make the trees larger, but basically they're still fairly small. So I'm going to get my 1-inch flat brush, this number 8 treacle. These brushes all have what's called synthetic mongoose brushes. So they mimic bristle pretty well, but they have a much softer feel. They don't, they're not quite as hard as typical bristle. So I'm mixing up some, using ochre and sap green and some of my Van Dyke brown to try to get several colors of green here on my palette. I think I've shown you before how you can, using the 2 yellows and 2 blues, or 3 yellows and 2 blues, you can get all kinds of colors of green out here. I can use my cad yellow and get a really bright sunshiny green that I want to put in the grass down here. I'm going to put in a really sunshiny color there, but the color I want in my trees is going to be more, it's going to be a little darker, and I'm going to try to get some 3 values in it if I can. So now we're going to hit these trees, and basically we're going to just use the side of the brush. And I'm not trying to paint big globs of paint here. I'm trying to paint a nice non-organic shape, non-geometric shape, I should say. even though these trees look rounded, very rounded, I'm going to hopefully not leave them all that rounded. I'm going to make them have some indentations and some holes for sky to show through. And by just touching with the edge of this, you can get some very nice soft edges on the back of these trees. It's a very neat technique. You don't have to put big brush strokes on. You don't have to put big globs of paint. You just sort of use the back of your brush and just sort of touch it. And if you can get 3 values in there, a light, medium, and dark, you will be creating very nice 3-dimensional looking trees. You look at what I have here. I have a light, a medium, and I don't have quite dark enough yet, but that is a winning combination for making trees. 3 values. If you can do that, you can fool the eye and make people believe that this is a 3-dimensional object up here. So I'm getting some dark in here. I pulled in some more of that dark brown to come in. Got a few nice soft. Pick up a little of my lighter green here with some cad in it and put in a few nice little touches up here, like this. A little bit lighter color tree. So hopefully that's coming through to you very well. Okay, here I've got a tree with a different color. I want to make it more yellow and ochre here in the sort of as we come to the foreground. I'm not doing big brush strokes, folks. I'm not doing X strokes or anything like that. I'm just touching, just lightly touching here. And what you see happening is the different values of this same color. I've got darker color and lighter color of the same tone here, is giving me 3-dimensional shapes. And they're abstract, which is the way I like to paint. And let's see, over here, this is another tree coming down. Okay, and these trees in the foreground have this same type of stuff going on right here. Okay. And I'm going to start changing the color a little bit, adding some different yellows. I put this cad orange in here. I'm going to see if I can use a little bit of it to maybe make my trees a little more orange. I could probably make the color I need with my red and yellow, but I'm going to use this cad orange and see if I can get a little bit of an orange. There's a really bright orange tree here on the left side, which I don't want to stand out too much, but I want to get some orange flavor to that thing. I don't know if you can even see that. That's pretty about the same value as everything else. But I'm going to put that in. I'm going to come back and put a little more of this yellow, Indian yellow in here. See how I'm painting that? I'm painting it with the brush stroke going up, pushing up. I'm not doing traditional brush strokes coming down. I'm doing brush strokes pushing up. And I want to have these to be not perfect cylinders or perfect circles. I don't want geometric shapes. I'm just kind of filling in where I can here and giving myself some other colors to work with. I've got some tree trunks down here I'm going to put in, sort of painting around those. I've got some tree colors coming in from up here again, so in this area. So let's put some of those in, mix them together. Okay, so I have some darker sort of yellowish color on top. Now that yellowish color is all pretty much one value. So what do we need to do? We need to fix that. We need to darken it down a little bit. How do you darken down a yellow? You can put any number of colors in. You can put in some black. We'll darken it down. Put in some of that brown, Van Dyke brown. We'll darken it down. And we'll see what we get here. I'm going to try to make this area here pop out a little more because I'm going to put some dark impressionistic strokes in here to give you another value. So if I can give you another value, I'll fool your eye and make you think this is a three-dimensional painting. I'm going to put in some darker things down here, leaving room for a trunk right there, leaving room for a trunk right here. All right, so now I've got the darker values on the bottom, and I've got a few of them sticking up here in some areas that basically give me that three-dimensional look I'm trying for. Over here I need a few more. Need to put some in among these trees. So I'm pretending the light is kind of coming from the right, even though for the most part the light's coming down from the top. It's almost straight up and down. When I look at the shadows on this photograph, it's the light is coming almost from the top above. Okay, so we're getting in some very nice clump of trees over here. And I've added enough darks to give myself some three-dimensionality. I've still got a few air holes there for put branches in. I got some place for my branch down here, my tree trunks rather, not branches. All right, I'm going to go back and get a little more orange, a little more of this Indian yellow and orange together. I'm going to start working in this area here with some sort of like some hedge, or I'm not sure if this is a hedge exactly or what it is, but it's something about this color and about this value. It has some dark areas at the bottom. So I'm going to put up some lighter yellow on top of that. If I can make it light enough. Let me pick up some white. I need some more. Need to lighten it up a little bit. It's a little bit too one value, one tone. There we go. Start getting in some of these other colors. All right. I'll put a few of those colors over here to help tie that together a little bit so that we don't have just that same yellow color over there. Okay, I got the same issue here. I need to make sure that I have some value change in this set of trees here. So how am I going to do that? Well, same way. Get some a little bit darker value. Picking up some of this brown, Van Dyke brown in here in this brush. And we're going to pop it in here in some areas and just make it look like there's some dark things going on there. All right, something like this is what I'm trying to do. Got my little house back there. I don't want to forget to put him in. But we're kind of just working our way across here, the canvas left to right, and seems to work out that way for me, and I can stay out of the painting and let you see most of it. Okay, I think, well, I've got this here. I'm going to get out my script liner and put in some of the tree trunks. One way to do that is to get some thinner here and get a lot of thinner on your brush, get a very thin mixture. You could also use some of the liquid with this if I wanted, but I'm going to put a few tree trunks in here. Just let you see a little bit of the some of that. Put a few more over here, and even stick some out the top maybe to make it look a little better. If you can see that, that's probably very hard for you to see. Put a few more in here. Basically, I'm just using this Van Dyke brown with a lot of thinner in it, so I have a very thin consistency in this paint. Just put in a few things here that make it look like there's tree trunks back there. This one tree trunk in this area is actually not black or not brown. It's actually sort of a gray color. So I'm going to go pick up some of my grayish color here with a little brown in it, maybe. And I want it to stand out. I want to make this trunk stand out. Do the same with the one next to it over here. I've got another one that's very similar. Okay, so I've got a few trunks there that kind of stand out and help tell the story that this is a woods over here with a lot of trees in it. And over here in this area here where I was working, I'm going to put in just a few more very light branches sticking up here. There were some other things coming up here like this. Looks like it's starting to lose some of its leaves, maybe something like that. I don't want to do too much of that. I'll get too much going on. All right, lay that brush down. Okay, so thinking maybe this building here is really white. However, I'm going to make it probably a little off-white. I'm going to get me another smaller flat brush here, maybe a number 4. Pick up some of this white and a little bit of my black. I want to make it gray. I want to make it darker than what's behind it. I want it to be probably at least as dark as the canvas underneath. Nope, I don't like that. Put some more light in it. Lighten it up. I want it to be lighter than the canvas underneath. Pick up some more white. So I'm using a brush that's just about the right size to paint this with. Okay, so it's a different color. It's either got to be lighter or darker than the sky behind it, or you won't see it. So I'm going to keep it whiter rather than darker. And these chimneys are going to be the same way. They're going to be white little chimneys with some nice caps on them that are orange. All right. There's a... Okay, I got to make the front of the building. Because of this sun is coming straight down, there's really no shadow hardly on this building, only on the eave. So what we have to do is sort of force the sun to be there. Okay, I made that whiter, which is what I was trying to do. I want it to be whiter than the background. I may have to restate that background to make it a little darker, possibly. All right. Okay, so I'm forcing a little bit of a shadow here by making this part that faces us to be just a little grayer than the other sides. All right, and now this roof has some interesting reddish orange in it. I'm going to pick up my cad red and my cad orange, see what kind of color I can get out of that by changing the tone just a little. See if I can get close to that roof color. Pretty close, I'd say. Okay, it's a mixture of cad red and cad orange. Okay, it's got a little bit of dirt on it. Pick up a little of my brown and sort of darken some areas here. Give it a little tone, just a little bit of a change of tone. Some up on top's got a little bit of the brown up here even. So just make the strokes look like they have a little bit of tone in them. I'm going to get my little bitty brush here out, this 0 flat, I think it is. Pick up the same colors I have. I'm going to put these chimneys in. We've got a couple of chimneys here that are setting here, like that. Pick up another over here on this side. We've got 2 chimneys over here. And I want to give them a little bit of a dark shadow. If I'm going to put a shadow at all, I'm going to put a shadow on the left side of it, like here, like that. Maybe a little hard for you to see. Hope not. Same deal on this side. A little bit of a shadow, like that. Okay. So we've kind of got that done. Let's see here. I'm going to put a little bit of this grayer color, color that I had on the front of the building here, the part that faces us. I'm going to put just a little bit of a coloring here like this. You see that? That is giving us a shadow. Again, I'm making this thing look three-dimensional by making one side slightly darker. All of a sudden you have a nice bright white side out there with the chimney. You've got the tops up there. You need to make this a bit narrower, a bit wider, I should say. All right. Could make it slightly darker, but I think that's probably going to do it right there. All right. Now, what else have I got? I've got these windows in here in this house. They're sort of a midnight black, dark brown, midnight black. I'm going to use the same 0 flat. It's got a very small bristle on it. I'm going to just put in a window there, and got a thing down here like this, another like that. On this other side that's facing us, I don't see anything. I know there's some windows there because it's covered up with some bushes, but let's put in a couple of these, just using this dark gray, brownish gray, and just put in a few little dark windows, small brush. Don't need much more than that, probably. The thing I do need to do, though, is to fix this background sky here. It's got to have slightly more value in it than it has. So I'm going to pick up some more of my violet here. I'm using this thin, small brush again. I'm going to come back and see if I can make this darker around this back of the house. I'm restating this just so I can get a nice edge on the back of that house. Hope you can see that. Sort of counterintuitive for me to paint the sky after I put it in. I always want to paint over it. I don't want to go back and repaint it. Some artists say you can always paint the sky anytime afterwards, and you don't have to paint them back to front, which is the way I like to paint. But so I'm just sort of feathering this out now to sort of give myself a little bit of consistency. I hope that makes that stand out better. It is darker, and that's really what I was trying to do there. Okay, we're making progress here. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Stop before I mess it up. Okay, there we go. Little brushwork there. Small brushes. I rarely like to use small brushes, but when you get on something like this, it has architectural components. You don't have to do that. All right, I'm going to go back now and pick up my orange. For this, I'm going to have to make sure you're able to see on the broadcast here. I'm going to paint my bushes across here, some more bushes. These are a little bit too bright, dark. Tone them down just a little. It's sort of like a hedge type thing going across here. Okay, and it sort of runs into here and gets darker as it goes over that way. Okay. So we got more trees over here. We also have another building over here. I think I'm going to paint the trees first and then put the building in last. So let me go back to my number 8 flat and start putting in some more trees. I like to change the color a little bit. These have more, I guess they have more, I don't know, ochre in them maybe. More, they don't have quite as much green over here. So let's just see if we can put in some this type of stuff over here. Yeah, that's got some ochre in it. Pick up a little more ochre. Hope you can see that. Okay. So I'm putting in sort of a base color. Some artists may call that the local color. I want to have some things that sort of stick up. If you make these little light and fluffer things soft, that looks like there's something in the distance, it gives it some depth this way as well. Pick up a little green in here. We're starting to get a little bit of green down here. Too much green, but we will feather it in with our brush. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Step back here and put in a few more of these. While I'm at this house, on the sketch, you really don't have this house on the sketch. I just noticed I didn't put it on the sketch. There's another little outbuilding here, but I'm going to put it in for you, and then you can add it when you get to you copy the painting here. I'm going to paint around it. In my watercolor painting, this is called negative painting, where you paint around an object. Kind of do the same in oils, I guess, but you rarely hear an artist talk about negative painting in oils, even though they do a lot of that sometimes. So I'm putting in some darker colors now. I'm going to try to get some value change, get some depth in here. I'm going to put in this top of this roof here like this. Leave room for the chimney. Leave some air holes for the birds. See the sky. Okay. It's working out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. Put a few more dark things in here. Put a few down here by this set of trees. These trees sort of kind of stick out and sort of something like that. This one here, we'll put a couple that kind of stick up out of it, maybe like this. Also, I'm just adding some incidents at the edges, so this looks like it's not just a circle. I don't want it to have the semblance of a circle. I want it to have some protrusions out of there and some things that make it not just straightforward circle. A bit too dark. I don't want to make it really super dark over there on the edge. Painting with the back of the brush again, folks, just tapping, doing some almost like stippling, but it's with the back of the brush. It's, I guess you might call it scumbling. Some artists call that scumbling. All right. While I'm over there, I'm going to get my script liner out again and bring it back and pull in some of this Van Dyke brown with thinner. Get a nice runny consistency over there. And put in a few more what looks like branches coming in and out, going in and out of here. Got some coming in here. Just make a few vertical marks here to tie this thing together. A bit too much there, too bright. Okay. All right, we're making good progress here. Cover that up a little bit. I think I'll put a little more green in there just to tie some of this together with the other side over here. All right, and then down at the bottom, got that little house to do over there, and then we've got the foreground to do, and we will be finished. Might as well put that little house in while I got my number 4 flat. Come back and get this color if I can find that color for the roof. It was cad red and cad yellow with a little bit of brown in it. And put him in over here. Okay, I'll darken him down just a little. Okay, put up a little touch of brown in that roof there a little bit, maybe just to show that it's kind of in the woods over there and it's getting more stuff on it. Has a little chimney sitting up there. See if I can pop that chimney in so you can see it. There we go. Now the front of it, I'm going to go back and get this off-white color again for in here. Kind of overrunning. Okay. Can make that have some value in it, like a little bit of a gray value maybe. In some areas, like maybe here. And under the eave here, sort of taper it down. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if I give it any kind of a value, oh, I want this side of the building to be darker. A little bit darker. At least so you can see the change plane, they call that, when a building goes out of the light. There's a shadow terminology called a change plane accent. That's what that is right there, that corner. It's where the plane of the building changes from front to side, and the shadow makes an accent on it. All right, I think I'm going to stop on that. Gosh, got to give a guy a little door, don't we? I can't let him be there without a door. Some kind. Can't see it. Got to make it so you can see it. Here, let's put a little door, maybe. Give him a little window back there. All right. So much for that little job. All right, now we're ready to start on this big, nice green frontage here. I think I'm gonna stick with my number 8 flat brush, and I'm gonna pick up more of this cad yellow, sap green, cad yellow, sap green, and I'm gonna tone it down a little bit with yellow ochre, but primarily cad yellow and sap green. This whole thing back here is just gonna get doused with. And I want to change the color. I don't want it to be the same color the whole width of the painting. Okay. Starting to come together, change the tone a little bit. You can have it, we need to variegate the color here as well. We need to make it darker in some areas and lighter in some areas, so that it shows movement. Leave some room for, so I'm just using cad yellow, sap green, and different values, different mixtures. So all of this has green grass behind it. There's green grass behind this fence here. There's even green grass in front of it. But I'm going to ochre it up a little bit, put a little more ochre in it as we come forward here. Looks like I got more yellow in it than I did ochre, didn't I? Well, I could fix that. So we've got numbers of yellow in here, green. So trying to leave my sketch intact as much as possible without destroying all of it, so I can just know where to put some things and make sure I have my colors in the right place when I come through here. So I'm painting around, more negative painting for you, painting around these trees around these fence posts, I should say, not trees. Painting around them. Grass grows in here and down here. So trying to leave some room so I can put in some fence posts and wood structures and so forth. Go back to my yellow and green. Okay, folks, got any questions? I'm willing to try to answer. Just type them in the window. All right, so now I've got the bunch of the foreground done. It looks like this could almost be a walkway in there, but it's basically a series of bushes that sort of just block or behind the fence. So I'm going to paint it that way, the way the photograph is, but if you prefer to have a walkway in there, you can change the composition. You don't have to paint my exact composition. All right, now we've got a bunch of fence posts here that all have sort of a brownish grayish color to them. So I'm going to mix up myself some dark sienna and white, and myself a little black in there to give myself some gray. Okay, so you see the colors I'm getting sort of a grayish color here with midnight black and white. More white in here, and picking up some of the dark sienna as well. I'm going to try to kind of double load the brush and see if I can just make some strokes over here that look like they might be fence posts, like this. I need to have the light on top. More brown. That brown has some pink in it, or some light red in it. Okay, these fence posts are not perfect. They may be more perfect in the photograph than I'm going to paint them, just because I don't like making things geometrically perfect. Try to make them have more interest if they're geometrically not perfect. And I want to have some value change in there so that I have some shadows in some areas. Darken it up in some areas like that. So I'm not making perfect fence posts. I'm trying to do everything but make perfect fence posts. Put a little bit of white on top maybe. See if I can strike a balance here with double brush loading. Okay, I have variation in the color, I have variation in the value, I have variation in the size, in the length. Those are all good compositional tricks that most professional artists do. They may not tell you that in their workshops, but they intuitively know that you need to do this kind of stuff. Put a few shadow type things across here to kind of connect them. I don't want them just sitting on the ground like they're glued in. I want them connected. Okay, so all right, so now the fence sort of runs under the bushes here, and it kind of pops out on the other side. So let's pop it out on the other side, and then we'll come back and put the bushes in, and we'll be finished. So here the fence comes over here. Got to take the white, take it out of your brush. If you get too much in, if it picks up the paint that's there, you have to come back and wipe your brush out. Another white. So you don't have to make them perfect, and you don't have to connect them all together. The eye will finish connecting those things, and it will make something nice out of it, and you don't have to worry quite as much with it. It's amazing what your eye will connect if you just make some impressionistic marks, things that look like a fence. The eye will finish it for you. So, for those of you who like to paint very, very detailed photorealistic paintings, you may not like this. I don't know. Because I like to paint impressionistically, and I like to leave something for the eye to analyze and step into the painting, figure out, what is that? Is that a fence? So we're coming over here, we got another bar like that, and the rest of this fence is sort of hidden behind these bushes that we're going to put in. Okay, don't have to do a whole lot more than that. I still have a little white canvas, or a little gray canvas showing up in there, but I don't think that's terrible. These bushes in here are, I'm going to get my big brush and finish this thing off here. I got my orange and red and my yellows, ochre, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, orange, and right in here we're going to just kind of put in this whole thing of bushes. Change it up, add some ochre, add some yellow, come back and get some orange. Okay, now that's just one big dull color, right? We don't leave it that way, right? Why not? Because it doesn't have any three-dimensionality to it. It has no form. So I'm going to go pick up a little bit of my browns now and see if I can come in here and sort of give it some, it's almost too brown. Tone it down a little bit. with my ochres or whatever. That's still awfully brown. I'm going to do this, and then I'll come back and restate it. I'm going to okay. Lighten it up. It's a little bit too dark, so I want to have just a little bit of the these darker things can be blended. We can actually blend them into the paint that's there, since we're painting wet on wet. And a few more dark areas in some areas here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to come back and take this smaller brush here. Maybe I can get some better shapes with this smaller brush. And I want to pick up some, I want to make it a little lighter. I'm going to pick up some of this white, and I want to get another value. I want 3 values in this set of bushes here. Right now I have 2 values. I have a dark and a medium. So by adding a little titanium to my mixture here that has my yellows and oranges in it, I'm going to come back now and put some highlights on top. See what that looks like. There we go. I'm having a little trouble at the bottom of my canvas here, hitting the again, I'm only using the back side of this brush. Okay. Make it go up just a little bit here. Kind of overlap that. Make sure we overlap this fence so we can see that. And I'm going to come back now and get some really dark and put the extra dark down on the bottom here that I didn't have. So I want to just sort of make some abstract shapes down here to kind of tie it together. It's all in shadow underneath here, so we'll do that and put a few more things in the grass over here. I think, my friends, okay, it's not quite the same color yellow as the green in that grass, but nevertheless, it's pretty close. And it doesn't have to match the same color anyway. We're using our artistic license here. And with that said, I'm going to take this off and step back and take a look. Okay. I don't see any obvious perspective problems. That little area right there might be just a fraction off. I could probably come back and see if I can square it off. It's a little better. Okay. I think I'm going to stop and sign this. If I can get some nice color here in my zero brush, I'll see how this works. I haven't tried this brush before to sign. Pick up a little more of this. More. Okay, my friends, I really want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, this is Swanwick, UK. A little says near Swanwick, UK is where the photo was taken by Diane Hewitt from Photos for Artists, and she's on Facebook, or actually Photos for Artists is on Facebook, and so if you're looking for photos, go out there and pick some up, and I think I'm going to say that's enough for today, and I would like for you to check out my Facebook page, check out my website. When I get this re-edited, I will put a new version out on YouTube. You can watch it now until I get a new one out there, and then I disconnect this one so you can't see it anymore. But I put a high definition version out on YouTube, and so you'll have that to watch as long as you want to try it. So I think that's all I wanted to tell you. Tell your friends about my channel. Subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and I hope to see you again. I'll be doing watercolors next Wednesday from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And so until I see you again, this is Larry Hamilton saying so long for now. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in.